Hello everybody, welcome back to Double Dip Draft Season 4, Week 5, Division 2 recap. I am your host, Spood, of the Southtown Sandslashers. Joining me today is...
I am Scoots, host of Dumble Spood's Army.
And today, we're going to be taking a look at the 4 action-packed, jam-filled, wonderful, good, kind of bad, depending on who you were, matches from Division 2, Week 5 Double Dip. This was a big week, Scoots. Do you want to know why?
Why is that?
3, 4, and 5 are big weeks. I mean, honestly, in this league, it's been going all the way to Week 7, but generally, at around 3, 4, and even into Week 5, it's kind of like where you see people are either making the run or they're breaking the run, right? Like, at this point, a lot of people are going to be disqualified from making it into playoffs just based on their record. And the tension was quite high. At this point in the division, unfortunately, we are recording this hella late, so we already have the results from Week 6 in, so we know how kind of generally things played out. But at this point,
that's true.
The division
especially
was scrappy.
Especially in Division 2, where everything's so close. I guess the top, or the middle 6 people are all one win away from each other.
Yeah, and it was actually crazy too, because at this point, like by Week 5, I was actually very much slumping, and I had only gotten my 3 wins, and I was having a hard time clinching that like 4th win. So it was really like the only confirmed playoffs contender at this point. Spoiler alert, is Aurora, based on her performance in Week 5. She's currently undefeated. But literally, every spot below Aurora was in contention. It was basically like everyone 2nd to 7th in that division had a shot. So everybody was fighting for a big win this week. And we had some winners, and we had some losers. I would actually like to set us up, if you don't mind. I know I'm doing a bit of talking. I'll let you in here in just a minute, Scoots, I promise.
You are a good talker.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The first match we have to talk about is going to be Remedy, coach of the Kansas City Krabbys, versus Cabral, coach of the Slinging Aegislashers. Going into this match, Remedy was really looking to secure a playoffs position. She had gotten 2 wins prior to this, and she was trying to pick up a 3rd win to put herself firmly in contention for a playoff spot. She had beaten her last 2 matches. She had beaten Skittles, and then she beat me in Week 4. So she was looking at Cabral, and she was thinking, okay, this guy is 1-2. You know, he's beaten Nick, but that's it. And I think I can take him out. And it was probably, I would say, a Remedy favored match, just based on like seeding. But things did not turn up Remedy in this match. Cabral managed to make a deep run. He picked up his 2nd win, again, pushing, shifting the goalpost a bit and bumping himself up potentially also into contention for playoffs, where if he had lost this, it would have been a completely lost cause. Cabral was not about to let that happen.
No, definitely not. Looking at the team selection here, you can kind of see what Remedy's idea was. Her first Pokemon, Kingler. She knew that she was.
I don't see a Kingler, my guy. I think you're talking about Kingdra.
Kingdra, yes. Sorry.
Kingler's the crab. I mean, it is the Kansas City Krabbys, so I guess you're not that far off. But
yeah, well, Kingdra is really good in the rain.
Yeah.
With Swift Swim, so that's definitely what the idea was behind that.
Yeah, Kingdra could outspeed Seismitoad, Swift Swim, not Barraskewda, but it also quad resists Barraskewda's stab, so even like Liquidation and Rain, it wasn't going to be able to break through this Kingdra in more than like 4 hits, maybe. So.
Mm-hmm. That and the 2 electric types. On paper, Remedy's team has some tools to deal with rain.
Yeah, my only real concern was I understand the rationale to wanting to bring your tier 1, because it's your tier 1, right? You get 1 tier 1, you're probably going to bring it damn near every week. But Remedy bringing Heatran to this game, knowing that rain was coming, and knowing that it really doesn't counter much. I mean, even in rain, it doesn't really counter Aegislash, because Aegislash is going to be able to take hits from Magma Storm or Lava Plume or whatever if it's halved by the rain, and then hit it back with a very strong like close combat. So
yeah,
I would have liked to have seen. I'm not sure what I would have brought if I were Remedy. Probably Appleton would have been a good choice for this game, in place of Heatran. But I understand the rationale, man. Sometimes you just want to bring your tier 1.
Yeah. Heatran, it can get Earth Power, which can definitely hit Aegislash if it's fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure you're fast enough.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual play-by-play, and we can kind of explore, like, where did Cabral find his openings versus where did Remedy fall short this week. This turn 1 is actually a very dense turn, so we had to run some calcs, but you'll notice this Seismitoad loves eating Rindo berries. It's brought Rindo berry, I think, literally every single week, and it's popped Rindo berry literally every single week. And this week is no different, but what you might not realize, so this thing actually just straight up dies to an energy ball from this thing. And the only way that happens on a non-crit is if this thing is choice specs. So Cabral knew that going in that, because we had labbed that scenario. So he had the knowledge that was a definitely choice specs circuitry. So that's something to keep in mind going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also kind of a longer game, spoiler alert, it gets a bit stally towards the end, so we can kind of, you don't have to necessarily give the play-by-play, but kind of just give me your thoughts. If there's any tangent you want to go on, feel free, because we've got time, I promise.
So, the early game, there's a lot of repeating switches, cycles, like switching Zapdos into Type Null, and then switching Type Null into Aegislash. Yep. It happens a couple times.
Yeah.
That time Remedy predicted it and went for a move that would damage Aegislash a little bit instead of a fighting type move.
For the savvy calcer, you'll realize that the that's banded damage from that Zapdos. It's choice band.
Yeah.
And you start to think like, okay, double choice. That's kind of I get it, right? Double choice is not the most uncommon. Yeah. But that Draco Meteor did a hell of a lot of damage to that type Null, and then you start to realize, that Kingdra is running choice specs, isn't it? Because it's not showing Life Orb, and the calc says that it's not supposed to do that much damage. And then you think, okay, well, it's triple choice.
Triple choice, yeah.
But hey, that's fine. I mean, triple choice, that's some draft league shit. Like, surely there's people who've run
I've run
choice.
triple choice Scarf before.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. People will do it. This Vaporeon switches in, eats a Flash Cannon, but man, strange that it took 20% from that Flash Cannon. If you punch that into a calculator, you will come to realize that Heatran is running choice specs. And then you're like, okay, Remedy has 4 choiced Pokemon? You're gonna find out something funny later. But here, you see a Life Orb on Mimikyu, and you're like, oh, thank God. Okay,
we finally found a setup mon.
So there's
team.
Yeah, there's one Pokemon at least that's not choiced. Yeah, probably 2, right? Because check out this Toxtricity. Toxtricity is also a setup mon. It gets access to Shift Gear. That's what it's and it uses it. High key form does or whatever.
It's setting up right now.
Yeah, amped. And then it switches out, which is interesting because it could just keep clicking Shift Gear in front of this thing. It can't really do much. Like Payback wouldn't have done a lot of damage. And Remedy says in chat that it's a scarfed Toxtricity. And that is when you realize that 5 of Remedy's 6 Pokemon are running a choice item. Now, I understand that in Draft League you might want to run some goofy stuff, but that I would advise against generally. Running 5 choice.
Unless you have an amazing team that completely counters your opponent, you don't have to worry about switching at all.
Yeah, which is not really going to happen. And I mean, if it does happen, then you still would get more mileage out of different items. Remedy, I mean, to her credit, she said that the Toxtricity was not supposed to be Scarf, it was supposed to be Throat Spray, which is that would have been a better set. Throat Spray, Drain Punch, Shift Gear, Toxtricity is a very legitimate thing. Could have done some damage to Type Null with enough setup. Certainly could have run through a lot of this team, actually. But the Scarf was not great. And it turns out that when you choice lock 5 of your Pokemon, you are playing at a massive disadvantage, especially because Bubble Buddy, Cabral's Vaporeon, is just sitting on everything.
Yeah. The problem with choice is if you can't break through a wall without setting up, then you're in big trouble.
Yeah. I also wanted to actually touch on this turn, because this is kind of one of those, like, high pressure, like, oh my god, eyes are on me, I've messed up my Toxtricity set, I've got to make sure that I get this win if I want to stay competitive for playoffs, and Remedy does a pretty gnarly misclick here. So the player off is fine. She's Life Orb. She's got 2 more hits in her tops before she dies on the Life Orb. This Pelipper is without a doubt slower than this Mimikyu.
Yeah, Mimikyu surprisingly fast.
Yeah, Mimikyu Shadow Sneaks instead of going for Shadow Claw, which does not do enough damage to the Pelipper, and Pelipper responds by just killing it. Which isn't great, because this thing also comes back in and sets up another rain later.
Yeah. Taking out Pelipper there would have been really good, because then it gets another turn to hit one of Cabral's Pokemon with Shadow Sneak.
Mm-hmm. And Remedy did not have the best fortune here either. She spams a good deal of Hurricanes over this match and doesn't get a single Confusion pop.
Yeah. Hurricane was a good idea because of the rain and 100% accuracy all the time.
Yep.
But just didn't get the RNG in that case.
Yeah. And this Vaporeon, basically at this point, Remedy just cannot break through this Vaporeon. Zapdos could have done it. Definitely Remedy at this point is forced to click like Thunderous Kick, but because it's choice locked, Aegislash comes in for free. I mean, unless you were like reading
Mimikyu could have done it with a Sword Stance, but it was too damaged at that point.
Stone Edge also interesting choice. It could have actually maybe 2-shot from there, depending on the speed of the Heatran. I don't think we ever get to see exactly how fast it is. But
it was doing like 25%.
Yeah, and it was at like 50, or the Vaporeon was. So
yeah, it's possible.
Also, that is a really funny interaction. That's a very rare moment where Defiant pops on something that's not like just defog or whatever, or like Intimidate. Whoops! Did not mean to reset that. What turn were we on? I don't know. Let's try like
near
40.
We were near the end, I think.
Yeah, right around here. Yeah, like right here. Yeah, an unfortunate Stone Edge miss. I mean, that's just what happens with Stone Edge too.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a rough loss. I mean, honestly, it was a very demoralizing loss. I can see why this would be like really frustrating to have to deal with. And yeah, this thing was running Superpower and Thunderous Kick. What I think could have been better is if Zapdos was running, it gets, I think, high horsepower. It gets some kind of ground type move that's not Earthquake. And that could have been helpful for breaking through Aegislash.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you're playing like the band game, and if you're gonna run like high horsepower for Aegislash, then Pelipper can come in every time. If you're running Thunderous Kick for, I don't know, type Null, then like Aegislash can come in every time. It's like when you're fighting that many immunities to your good moves, it's just like it's difficult.
Yeah. Barraskewda still has to kind of fear Kingdra here.
Yep. Maybe if it was like a crit drift, well, that'd be cool. It doesn't really need the speed.
Yeah.
I liked it as an answer to Seismitoad, though.
Unfortunately, no crits with Stone Edge.
Yep.
No confusions with Hurricane.
Yeah, just the luck was just not there for Remedy. She really just needed like something. And this was, I mean, as much of a close game as a 3-0 can be, I felt like this was pretty tight. Like a couple of differences in Remedy's prep certainly would have helped a lot. I mean, honestly, if this thing was Throat Spray and it got off that shift gear, I don't know how it wouldn't have just won in front of the Sleeping type Null. Like, it would have just been able to set up like 2 or 3 shift gears or whatever. Then it would have outsped even Swift Swim Barraskewda.
Yep.
And that, could have been a different game, but Cabral, he keeps his head on. Like I say this a lot, pretty much every time I do one of these, I'm like, man, good job for not choking, because that is the hardest thing to do, is not choke. And even if it feels like someone is handing you a dub on a silver platter, like their team building is fucked up, and they're just clicking some like crazy misplays, or they fat finger like the wrong button or whatever, people lose those all the time. It's almost worse to play a game where your opponent like has like a fatal mistake, because suddenly the onus is like, oh my god, wait, now I'm expected to win because they have like this error in their team or whatever, or like this crazy bad misplay. And that's when you get into your own head and start mispredicting, and then you lose.
No one wants to be the one who gets reverse swept.
Yeah, that sucks. I've been 6-0'd by you enough times to know that it's just like it's all it takes is one turn sometimes. And unfortunately, yeah, Cabral, he gets the leg up on Remedy, and he brings himself into contention for playoffs. Unfortunately, he mostly dashes Remedy's shot at getting up there confidently. If she had picked up a third win here, she would have looked like a really good contender going forward. And it's still not impossible for either of them as of like week 6. But it's become a lot easier for Cabral to land it than it has for Remedy, and that's not in any small part due to this one match. So, yeah. That's draft.
Every game counts.
Every game counts.
There's only 7 games in a season.
Yep. Would you like to go ahead and throw us over to the next game?
I will. Not sure how much you'll like this one. But...
Well, I'm here to do my job. Work isn't fun, but it's necessary.
Yes. So, as you all see, this next game is going to be Spood coaching the Southtown Sandslashers versus Vincent coaching the Heerlen Hawluchas.
Yes, and it is a very tight 1-0 game. Unfortunately, the 1-0 does not go to Spoot SSBM. It instead goes to Spoot Man. He played very well. He had some really cool stuff. I felt like I had some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to try not to toot my own horn too much. This is my own game, and I don't want to necessarily introduce a ton of unnecessary bias, but I'll give my insight where I can and where I feel it's appropriate. But if you want to just, I don't know. The thing is, so coming into this match, I was fresh off a loss from Remedy. That had put me at 3-1, but I was still feeling quite confident, right? Because you
were still one of the strongest people in the division.
At this point, I was still second in the division, right? By a pretty comfortable margin. My differential was looking pretty strong. But I knew that Vincent was a good player, and I knew that essentially my hardest matches were going to be my last 3. I was kind of scared of Vincent, I was kind of scared of Jason, I was very scared of Aurora. And I knew that if I wanted to make playoffs, because I took that L versus Remedy, I had to make that up somewhere else. So I saw Vincent as maybe being one of, if not my best opportunity to maybe secure my playoffs position somewhat early so that maybe I could breathe for the next couple of weeks. And unfortunately, that did not happen. Vincent definitely edged me out on this one.
Yeah.
And he's looking very strong for the season too. But why don't you take it away? Tell me what you see.
Yeah. So the starting off with this missing sleep powder hurts a bit.
Yeah. It doesn't end up doing too terribly much in the grand scheme of things, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not the most important miss, but so Tapu Bulu, Vincent thinking that'll probably counter the Tangrowth. Tangrowth usually can't do much against bulky grass.
Yeah, that's true. This Tangrowth is a funny, goofy little set. I figured the Bulu was going to come in on this cycle, so I popped the Swords
Dance. Swords Dance Tangrowth.
If you're newer to the game, it doesn't run that, usually.
No, not usually.
This is a very sort of bulky defensive, physical regenerator pivot. This is just like a slow Pokemon that can come in, put things to sleep, set up Sub-Leech Seed if it has to, Giga Drain something if it has to, and then it's mostly just switching out to recover that 1/3 HP and switching in on like a non-stab, non-super
You'll often see it running Assault Vest.
Yep.
Because it can have that passive regenerator healing.
Yep. But this, here's what's funny about Tangrowth, and also something that is also very similar to a Ferrothorn set that I used to like to run on the ladder. They have very passable physical attacks. Some people will run like Earthquake on Tangrowth to hit like Toxapex or whatever super effectively or something. Or, not necessarily Toxapex, but other things. Like Toxapex doesn't really run like offensive special poison moves generally, so you might see it in response to that, or you might see it to, I don't know, hit various other like maybe soft checks when they come in, and it's like a pretty solid Earthquake. It does good damage. Ferrothorn and Tangrowth, man, they have attack stats. So what's funny is they both get access to Swords Dance, and I really just wanted to do a goofy like Tangrowth thing this week. So I figured that Swords Dance, I mean, given its natural like defensive bulk, it can sit in on this Bulu, you know, it can take a Mega Horn okay, and it does a lot of damage back. Tangrowth does get Poison Jab, would have one-shot the Bulu. I instead opt for Aerial Ace, which doesn't quite kill this Bulu. It does 76. I was running Aerial Ace over Poison Jab so that I could maybe scare off Hawlucha if it were to switch in. Yep. But that was the rationale. It's kind of a dumb set, and it didn't really work, but it was pretty goofy.
I liked it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I like that read.
That was a good read.
Yep.
Taking out the pivot. So this Moltres kind of becomes a problem.
This thing is scary as fuck.
Yeah, it's one of the better Pokemon to come out of Crown Tundra, I think.
Yeah, and
it's got a really good
a lot of work
ability, good move pool, a lot of setup options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Berserk is insane. It's just like really, really good. It's very free. It's like very economical.
Yes. So Pincurchin comes in, survives the Fiery Wrath, and doesn't get flinched.
Yeah, that was going to be a big deciding moment. My team is very especially defensively weak, and this thing, especially after an agility, is just like a huge, huge problem. But I knew that as long as I didn't get flinched here, the Sash was going to come in clutch. I was packing the Sash on Pincurchin because he just has so many Moxie sweepers, and I was afraid of maybe Gyarados or something coming. Although, obviously, in hindsight, it makes sense that Gyarados wouldn't come versus an electric terrain like Raichu spam team, but
yeah, electric core.
Yeah, it still did pretty okay. Like I had this thing gets Scald, so it can actually threaten Crocodile a bit. And yeah, in this instance, you know, it prevented Moltres from causing some serious problems.
Yeah. With Air Slash and Fiery Wrath, Melmetal might have been able to take a hit, but maybe it would have been close.
At +3, it probably not. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because Melmetal does not have very good special defense. Although it has great HP, so maybe. I don't know. This is a cool Hawlucha. I don't know how meta this set is or has ever been. I've never really seen it. Most people like to run either like Power Herb Sky Attack was like an old school one that people like to run to prop Unburden. Or what's very common nowadays, and what Vincent's team is basically drafted around, is using a seed, right, like a terrain seed. So he's in this case, he has Tapu Bulu, which sets up grassy terrain. He'd be running grassy seed Hawlucha. So whenever it comes out in grassy terrain, it would get a +1 defense bonus, and then it would also lose its item, which would double its speed through Unburden. But this is actually a very clever workaround. He knew that he might not have consistent access to his terrain because I also had a terrain setter, and he doesn't necessarily want to hard commit to either electric or grassy seed, just because like it's, you know, it's a very volatile, like when you're both trying to muscle automatic terrain setting on the battlefield, like it can be tough. But he thought of a very clever workaround, which is to run Endure with weakness policy. So he's guaranteed to live one shot. He goes way, way strong. He's already going to outspeed my whole team. He goes right for acrobatics, and he has to die. Because in that scenario, Tangrowth is going to just spam Sleep Powder on that thing, since nothing else is asleep. And if it falls asleep, then, you know, save switch into Raichu.
Yeah, and luckily for you, you had a Rocky Helmet on Tangrowth, so...
Yeah, it helped out.
That thing wasn't able to survive. That thing wasn't able to sweep through your whole team.
Yeah, it was very scary. Morpeko is a very cool Pokemon, by the way. I have done a very poor job of actually showcasing all the cool stuff that it can do this season.
I still don't really understand him. I know it can Parting Shot to...
Yeah, it's just like a speedy guy. Like Aura Wheels, Rapid Spin, Parting Shot, Super Fang, like decent coverage. It's just a cool little dude. He does good work. And this Corviknight, or not Corviknight, God, it says Corviknight, so I recorrect.
Yeah.
This Skarmory was custom made to actually sit on the Melmetal too.
Yeah, you get hit by Rocky Helmet twice when you use Double Iron Bash.
Yep. Locked myself into Surf, and I thought it was pretty much GG here. It turns out it is not GG here. So he only takes 67 on that. We did run a calc, and this was a timid Alolan Raichu with Scarf to outrun Unburden Hawlucha in electric terrain. But when we were calcing for like timid Raichu Surf, it was still doing like 85 to 99 or something like that to Crocodile. So This thing, it never reveals an item. It's not lefties, it's not life orb, it's not choice locked, and it's not pinchberry. So we're assuming that it's either running an assault vest or it's just an HP bulk set. Unlike the one we're calculating for on the ladder, which you wouldn't necessarily see. You start to see, like, this thing is Moxie and it's probably max speed. So assault vest, and I mean, assault vest, it kind of makes sense. HP investment doesn't make as much sense. But hey, whatever he was running,
it's still kind of a mystery, but
yeah, and
it's definitely bulky-ish.
Mm-hmm. Because you'll see how close this game ends up running. Morpeko comes in. Morpeko does outspeed, because I got that party shot off earlier, but Rapid Spin only does 17. If the Surf had just done 16% more, which according to the calc it could have, this thing would have died. And unfortunately, if I were running something besides Super Fang on my 4th slot, or if I were a Dark type when I came in instead of an Electric type for my Aura Wheel, that might have actually been able to clutch me the kill. But neither of those conditions were met, and I lose to this one Crocodile on 16%.
It was really close.
Yeah, very, very tight. Vincent played super duper good. I loved the sets, and I think that he definitely deserved the win. It was just like a straight up, like, I got outplayed at the end.
Yeah. It took everything you had to pretty much stop his Moltres and Hawlucha from sweeping, and then...
Yeah. He just has such a suffocating team. In this instance, this play I want to, like, rationalize too. When the Surf doesn't kill, I realize, like, oh my god, okay. You know, high horsepower is going to kill me. He's not running Earthquake, he's running high horsepower. High horsepower is a 95% accurate move, and close combat is, like, he's going to have to basically hit either high horsepower or close combat if he wants to reliably kill Melmetal at 38, even at +1. And I figure either he's going to click, like, close combat, and then his defenses will be lower, so Morpeko Rapid Spin might have a better shot to kill, or high horsepower might miss. And that was my rationale, like, okay, I'm going to throw in Melmetal and see if I can force one of those two win cons. And unfortunately, I do not have the good fortune of getting either. So Vincent just pulls it back.
What's Morpeko's name?
Algoro. That's a German reference. That's from Castle Griffinsteed. That's the name of the lesser demon, Algoro.
I've not seen that.
Yeah, it's a really old one. It's a good video. But yeah, Morpeko, he's just he's a little guy. I mean, he's got good stuff. I hope that maybe I can show him off a bit in playoffs, and he can finally, like, debut that Aura Wheel. He's the only Pokemon on my team that hasn't gotten a single kill, which is, like, super bummed, because I think he's a great Pokemon. And I definitely don't regret picking him up, because he's, like, very good utility, like, kind of fast, parting shot, like, hazard control, Aura Wheels are really strong. You know, yeah, it's a great Pokemon. I really, really like it. I wish I could have showcased it better, and hopefully I get a chance to do so in playoffs. But you know what? That's fine. Vincent did a great job. We had a very close match. We both pulled out all the stops, really. We showed off a lot of cool tricks, but the better man won that day. So that's how draft goes.
Yeah.
And scooching forward to another match. One that I don't lose, so I can be a little more chipper when I'm talking about it. We've got Skittles the Butt, coach of the Nevada Ninetales, versus Aurora, coach of the Hoensbroek Hunters. This was another fat dub. Aurora was very accustomed to accumulating fat dubs. And
with large margins, too.
Oh, yeah. She actually goes nuts. I mean, her first week was a 6-0, her second week was a 5-0, and then the next 3 weeks were all 4-0 victories, including this one. So, just insane differential gap between her and the rest of the division. Even me, who was doing relatively well up to that point, I was at maybe like +10 or something at this point, and she was already well above 20, so...
yeah, pretty crazy.
She's insane. She's really, really damn good. She's not fucking around this season. And she has the craziest draft to prove it. I mean, even, like, Zygarde 10% has been putting in hella work. Archeops has done pretty well. Victini, Slowbro, Pheromosa, Porygon 2. Even Zarude has seen a little bit of a spotlight. But man, Aurora is so good, and this was just another, step on the ladder for Aurora. She was just like, yeah, I'm clocking in, I'm gonna beat Skittles, I'm gonna clock out, go back to just sitting at the top of my division undefeated. By this week, even IDM had taken a loss to Firebolt. Aurora still sitting, after this week, a clean 5-0, the only person in the entire league who by week 5 was undefeated. So, crazy good.
Yeah.
And she had a good strat for Skittles. We'll let it play out, but
you'll quickly pick up on
what
her strategy was.
Yeah, Trick Rotom to Gimp the whatever wall. I mean, really, that would have worked on Cress. It would have worked on Celesteela. It would have worked.
It works on a
Suicune.
lot of Skittles Pokemon.
Yep. And then Aurora just starts clicking buttons. Does not get the flinch there, and then this Cofagrigus just is like, fuck it, we ball. I love Skittles' approach here, too.
Why was it faster?
Trick Room.
Is Cofagrigus... Oh, right.
Yeah, it's Trick Room. Cofagrigus is slow as shit.
Oh, that makes sense.
I actually really like this. There's a philosophy, I don't know if you watch WBE at all, or if you're super familiar with, like, some of the higher tier, like, draft content out there. But I remember watching MV versus Wolfglick from WBE season like 3, I think, or season 4, whatever their like inaugural Sword and Shield season was. And MV versus Wolfglick, he was like, I have a strat, which is just to run, I think it's Final Gambit is the one where you like just do however much damage your health is and then die, right?
Yeah.
He was a Final Gambit Victini, and he just literally he scarfed it, and he was like, I expect this Victini to have more health than anything on Wolfglick's team possibly can have. In turn 1, I'm just going to kill something. Because I identify that like Wolfglick is a guy who will have put together a team that is very capable. Like, all of the Pokemon have a specific role, and maybe if I can just literally punch out a random Pokemon at the beginning of the game, that'll throw him off enough for me to beat him. I feel like Skittles had a very similar approach. No. But, I liked the rationale. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a really cool approach. And I think Skittles was doing kind of a flavor of that here, where he was like, oh my god, wait, I need to just have power, so I'm gonna blow up on this Slowbro, and I'm gonna Destiny Bond on this Rotom, and I'm just gonna kill my Pokemon to take whatever Aurora has. It's such
punch some weaknesses in early.
Yeah, just literally punch out some holes. And Aurora's team, I think, functions a lot like that, where I think that's a really solid like game plan to be like, I'm just gonna literally take one of your Pokemon, and as soon as you're missing one, then I'm just, it's money. Unfortunately, much like MV versus Wolfglick, it doesn't really work out here.
Yeah, Explosion doesn't do nearly enough damage to take out Slowbro.
Yeah, if it had just done a little bit more, First Impression could have done it, but yeah, Slowbro manages to get out with like 15 health or whatever. And from there, I mean, yeah, Aurora pretty much just throws shit at the wall. Like, she's just literally setting up on all of her Pokemon. It's like sub, probably bulk up Zarude. We see, I think, Work Up or something from Victini later. We saw Calm Mind Slowbro. We saw Nasty Plot Rotom. Wouldn't be surprised if Archeops was a similar like setup set. Aurora just literally brought setup on all of her Pokemon. Yeah, you see Work Up here. And she's just exploiting that weakness that Skittles has to,
Yeah, to set up in general.
To set up, yeah. And that's kind of the weakness of Stall in general, is just being able to get in a Pokemon and just set up hard. And Aurora, I mean, she's good at fucking Pokemon, man. She just identified that was the win con, and she played it really aggressively, and it worked out really well. I mean, it looked hopeless for Skittles, frankly. This was a tough fight.
Yeah. He came in with some tricks up his sleeve, but it wasn't enough.
It was not enough to break
through.
Yeah. You need more than tricks, when you're up against Aurora. And it's just like identifying that weakness in Skittles' draft and exploiting it that hard. I mean, that's just the sign that you're just the good player, Like, you came in and you were like, oh yeah, I know what I have to do. And then just executing it with no fear, no hesitation, like, didn't even think twice about it. And I really want to give Skittles kudos, because I think that the approach is just like, yeah, Destiny Bond, fuck you, Explosion, fuck you. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense versus Aurora, but it just wasn't conducive to what Aurora had cooked up for him.
Yep.
So, pretty short replay. I mean, there's not even much to talk about, right? Like,
definitely one of the quicker games this week.
Yeah, there was a lot of stalemate-y, sort of in-game stall-y situations, and this was certainly not one of them.
Yeah.
Which is ironic, given that Aurora and Skittles are responsible for 90% of the stall in Division 2.
It's just their matchup in particular where
Yeah.
Aurora didn't give time to stall.
Yep.
Or Skittles just decided that, well, this Pokemon's going to die, so
yeah,
might as well make it quick.
Kamikaze, yeah. I think that's a cool approach. I like Skittles. I think that he plays cool. Yeah, there's not much else to say about that, I guess.
Yep.
And I guess that leaves us with the final replay. You want to introduce this one, big guy?
Yeah. This is White Loaf coaching the Loafville Lanturns versus Jason with the Hartford Honchkrows.
Yes, sir. And this match was real sad. White Loaf is one of my best friends, and I think a great draft player, and I think a great Pokemon player in general. If you look back at Pokemon Smowdown, he's had, I think that his Pokemon Smowdown reunion run is in contention for the best run of any Pokemon Smowdown tournament of all time. He's clearly got what it takes to be a great player. So why is he performing so bad? He talked to me about this one after, and he was like, yeah, man, my heart just wasn't in it. I was playing Jason. I wasn't really paying attention at the beginning. And by the time I realized I could have won, it was too late. And it's just like, man, I hate hearing him talk like that, because I know that there is a champion's heart in there. And it's just been so thoroughly trounced out of him at this point where, yeah, he goes 0-5 this week.
Yeah, it just feels like he hasn't really connected with his team this season. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a repeat performance. I mean, in Season 3, the exact same thing happened to Nick. He went 0-5, and then he got 2 more wins. He got a win in Week 6. He got a week in... He got a win in Week 6 and a win in Week 7. He won his last 2. And as of Week 6 now, right, we've seen the Week 6 results. He's picked up his first win in Week 6. And I think that it's possible that he gets another win in Week 7. And then it's like, man... Can you imagine going 5-2 or like 2-5 more appropriately, and then having that be the exact same performance the next season? No wonder that he's feeling demoralized, man. I would be fucking miserable.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know.
The draft giveth and the draft taketh away, and unfortunately, a lot of the taketh thing is from our boy White Loaf. Jason, however, is living it up big money. Dude, he's had like a much better season than his last couple of seasons. And he's we take those, man. He got a nice White Loaf win. He got a nice Vincent win. I believe he beat Remedy. So I think he's fighting Remedy this week, or Week 7. So who else did he beat? I know he beat Vincent and White Loaf.
As of this
he beat Cabral. He beat Cabral.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, 3 wins. That's a big one. He could potentially pick up a 4th in Week 7. I mean, that's as good a season as he's ever had.
Definitely in playoff contention.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's actually the highest in playoff contention as of Week 6. And again, I don't want to belabor the point too hard because this is a Week 5 analysis, but as of Week 6, there are 3 people confirmed for playoffs in Division 2. And then Jason is the 4th one who's like sitting there who can still lose it, but he's most likely to get it.
Yeah.
So, that having been said, let's take a look. Let's see what playoffs Jason looks like versus defeatist White Loaf under 50% HP.
So yes, the Whale Lord.
Wailord, yeah.
The legendary Whale Lord who quit Blizzard.
Jason infamous for just clicking Raw Blizzard like a god every time.
Some people, like Aurora, they don't want to run moves with low accuracy, but Jason,
yeah, he lives and dies
he's
by
all
it.
about the power,
for sure. I love that. I think that's just such a badass thing to do. And here's basically the fatal mistake. Nick thinks that he can get away with a second coil here because, normally you would, right? Like if you hit a move and it does like just over 50, if you go first and you coil again, then it'll raise your defense. Surely you will live a hit. Darkest Lariat is a fringe case. It's a move with a weird.
It's a special move.
Yeah, well,
not
it's
special.
Yeah. That's why I tripped over that too. I was about to say it's a special move.
Special ability.
It has a special ability. Darkest Lariat ignores defensive stat changes on your opponent. So Nick didn't know that, or wasn't
Foil
paying
really
attention.
doesn't do anything to stop it.
Yeah, so he was 2-hit KO'd by Darkest Lariat no matter what happened here, and then he died.
Yeah, and that leads to Beast Boost, but unfortunately,
I think it's slow as shit while it's parried. So,
and it's probably choiced as well, so it can't really do anything to Ndidi.
Yeah, well, I mean, Darkest Lariat, if it had hit, would do it, but
oh yeah, it was probably too slow.
Yeah, and Urshifu just tears through this team a lot. You know, it pretty much forces the overheat there because you really want to kill that Urshifu if you get the chance. And this thing is literally Hydro Pump Blizzard. What a god! It doesn't hit either of its moves. Poor Wailord. I love that Jason has brought Wailord more than once. That's such a G thing to do. But then this cash cow does it. It
actually kind of walls out Buzzwole.
Dude, Miltank is actually an incredible wall. It's really, really good for being a low tier.
Yeah.
I think you had it, right?
That I had it on my rain team, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it can definitely be good in certain situations. Like, bulky normal types, it gets Stealth Rock, it gets Thunder Wave.
It can heal itself with Milk Drink.
It can heal itself. It can be like a good bulky pivot.
Defense Curl rollout still has not been brought to any of these matches. Miltank is the Pokemon to do it. I'm just saying. I know it's a bad set, okay? You don't have to tell me. Yeah, this standoff is basically just, Nick is like, when are you going to switch? And Jason's like, I'm not going to switch. I'm just going to keep clicking Darkest Lariat. But Whitelove's okay with that, man. He's ready to like run that Darkest Lariat out. Darkest Lariat at that point was down to 4 out of 16, and without Darkest Lariat, it's really hard for Jason to pop the last couple of his Pokemon. Unfortunately, he just sacks the Miltank right there. And,
no special defense investment, I don't think.
Yep. And at that point, it's pretty much over. You kind of need
Shadow
both.
Ball kills Drowden.
Yeah, it kills this thing too. I don't know why he put it in. I guess he's just donating differential because he feels bad at this point, but yeah, Sucker Punch is very free there. You basically Sucker Punch there, and if he switches into Dusclops, you just click Wicked Blow and then win. And I believe that it's a choice Blacephalon. I don't know. I would assume like Specs probably.
Yeah, I think it's Specs.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to outplay
Duraludon.
Yeah, wouldn't be able to outplay Sucker Punch in that case. So it's pretty much a foregone conclusion as soon as Miltank's out of the way. And then it concludes, and that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, and then on men's words, it's just GG, White Love left. And it's just like, man, White Love, what happened, bro?
Yeah.
It's just sad. I mean, like, I don't know. There's no, like, you don't want somebody to look at your draft league performance and just be bummed out, but that is really just the story of White Loaf the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. Unfortunately, if a season gets off to a rough start,
it's hard to come back.
It can be demoralizing because once you're down like 2 losses, if you're 0-2, it's like I have to try really, really hard to get back into playoff contention.
You have to kind of think of it like you have a limited amount of losses that you can pull from, right? So you have to be like, okay, here are the people that I'm most scared of in my division. I'm going to try and allocate my losses to those games so that maybe if I lose them, like, it's not a big deal. I know how many losses I can take and still get into the playoffs. But for White Loaf, like, his week 1 with Skittles, I'm sure he felt relatively confident because by seed he should have beaten Skittles. And he lost to Skittles, and then he lost to Aurora, and then he lost to me, and then he lost, and losing to Aurora and me is like, by seed, that is kind of the expected outcome. But it's still like, you lose to somebody in an upset week 1, and then you lose to 2 people you probably were going to lose to anyway, 2 and 3. You're still entering week 4 at 0-3. And that just sucks, no matter who you lost to. So, yeah, really just unfortunate stuff. Jason looking really strong. He's this draft. I mean, I like Jason's draft is just so manly. It's very powerful, and he's hopefully taking it to playoffs, man. He's grinding, so
yeah. He definitely seems like he's in the upper echelons this season
for sure. And I
thought he's always been pretty good.
Oh yeah,
Like
no,
last season, I think he just underperformed a little last season.
Yeah, so Jason, he's not like the old guard really. Like he's still fairly new school compared to like SSL players, but he picked up double dip in season 2, which most people came on either season 1 or season 3. Season 2 only had him and Firebolt, I think, were the 2 people who joined in season 2. So
yeah,
and he's been in it, man. He didn't do great in season 2. He didn't do great in season 3. Season 4, he's finally hit his stride. He's got a draft he feels good about. He's made some predictions, some good reads. He brings some pretty cool stuff in his match versus me in week 6. Definitely keep an eye out for that when that comes out. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Jason's finally kind of like feeling the draft. He's really he's getting his head around it. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to play it. He's really establishing that. Okay, look, I am a threat. I have been a threat. Maybe I haven't performed up to that status yet, but I'm here. I'm taking names, and I'm doing it. So don't sleep on me anymore.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much that for the main season. I'd love to, if you'd indulge me, Scoots, I'd love to take a look at the division rankings with you.
Sure.
So as of week 5, yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier in the video, there's 6 people in Division 2 who are 1 win away from each other. 3 3-2s and 3 2-3s.
Yeah.
So
pretty much as close as a division could be. I mean, when you think about it in terms of the entire division, right? That's 6 people who are all muscling really hard for playoffs by week 5. Whereas in Division 1, it's arguably closer, but between a smaller group of people, right? Like the result is literally by number closer, but there's less people actually fighting for the spots. Whereas in Division 2,
5 people fighting for playoffs. None of them are really confirmed yet in Division 1.
Yep.
But the lower 3 are pretty close to out.
Yeah, essentially.
If not already.
I would honestly say, yeah.
Actually, yeah, they are out because the best Haunted Mansion Gengars can get is 3 and 4, and there's 4 people with 4 wins already.
Yep. So
it's really between the top 5.
Yeah, it's literally impossible.
1.
But Division 2 is a different story. I mean, everybody, like, the differential's really close in most cases. Like, the differential difference between 3rd and 7th is 7. Which is, like, you know, basically, like, if the lower end gets, like, a 4-0 and the top end gets 3-0'd, like, that's a very realistic outcome for a week, and that would literally swap their positions.
People can, like, jump 4 or 5 spots in 1 week.
Yeah, it's insane. Very volatile. And, yeah, you really start to see it pan out. Like like if Remedy had beaten Cabral here, would have been amazing for her. Cabral actually sitting here nipping at Jason's heels, trying to get into playoffs. Whereas Vincent, you know, picking up that win on me helped him a lot. Brought his differential just barely positive. Brought him into that 3-2 sort of dream spot, where it kind of gives you a more lenient road into playoffs as long as you just don't drop every single game from there on. And of course, Aurora, the undisputed goddess of Division 2, just towering over the peons, enjoying their bickering, you know?
Stealing the differential from everyone.
Yeah, plus 23, Jesus Christ.
The rich get richer.
Literally just hedge fund gamer. Like, look at this. Yeah, it's insane. And spoiler alert, week 6, that differential will simply balloon even higher as the rest of the people in Division 2 fight for dominance and fight for that hotly contested playoff spot. But as of week 5, man, it was tight. I mean, as tight as... I mean, so, like, Season 3, to contrast, most people knew if they were going to be in playoffs or not by week 5. In Season 4, that is not even remotely the case. No one in either division feels confident that they're landing in playoffs except for Aurora by week 5.
Yep.
So...
It all comes down to the last 2 weeks, really.
Yeah, and that's as a spectator, that's a treat. That's fun. It's literally pick your sports team and just hope that they win. But I guess that's pretty much it. Did you have any more insight that you'd like to share with the people?
No, not really. I was gonna say I'd be willing to bet that Aurora is shorting White Loaf stocks, like his team stocks.
Yeah.
But
Invest in White Loaf, bro.
that's probably why she's taking all the differential right now.
If White Loaf is GameStop, that makes Cabral like Dogecoin. Like he's getting there, but he's doing it slow and steady.
I think Cabral would like that.
Yeah, I think he'd like that too.
He's a fan of Dogecoin.
Definitely. But yeah, that's all she wrote for Division 2 Week 5. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, my name is Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers.
And I am Scoots, coach of Dumblespood's army.
And we will be seeing you next week for some more high-octane Draft League action you won't want to miss.
See ya.